Every yard, every hit, every second. It's earned out here. This game demands more than just skill. It demands fuel. The right fuel. Because out here, it's not just about how hard you work. It's about how long you keep going. When the game gets real, drink bottle still.
Hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving festivities, football, time with families. If you're in university and now it's reading week, take that time to get caught up and enjoy the time at home if you so happen to be there. As for us, though, Connor, we got a lot of football still going on. It is coming down to the wire. As we know, the playoff push is real. There are still the 3 seed all the way down through the 7 seed up for grabs. And I know the 3 seed is down to like Queens and Windsor and their game. But if Windsor loses that game, do they slide further down than four? I suspect that they will be just there. But we will actually have a full playoff scenarios video for you guys towards the end of the week, so that as we go into the crazy OU week that it's going to be, we know what's happening, right? We know the 1-2 matchup is going to be settled between Western and Laurier. But before we get to those upcoming games, guys, we got a lot of action from Friday and Saturday to get caught up on.
Yeah, we sure do, Wade. And let's go to one of those games that, we talked about early and had some big playoff implications. The McMaster Marauders hosting the Waterloo Warriors, and they took care of business. A 47-14 win over those Warriors. And, last week we said it was Luke Thalman that was going to be the guy that gets it done. This week, though, Lucas Baresi comes into the game, goes for 148, 3 touchdowns on the day. Thalman did have 2 in the game as well. So tandem effort there. But McMaster as a whole, I thought looked really, really solid in this game, forcing 4 interceptions off the arms of Nolan Caban and Emmett Ward. And I think, defense really was a bit of a story in this one.
Yeah, and I'd like to credit this McMaster offense because Thalman, started the game very strong with two touchdowns. I believe he went out with a small injury, but Baresi came in and it looked like they didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Now Baresi obviously still has the running capabilities of Thalman, so we saw him kind of do the short yardage package and have some big carries that way. But Connor, McMaster's really leaning on this defense, and you mentioned it there with the 4 interceptions. Again, this week from Mac, we don't see a big offensive output. And yes, I know 5 passing touchdowns. Baresi had 3 throwing, 1 rushing himself. Those look gaudy, but it's a lot of short fields. It's a lot of playing the field position game and taking advantage now that they have those short fields in their favor. And McMaster, rightfully so, has turned this season right around, and they've got a big time game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, they certainly do, Wade. And they're going to be hosting the Carleton Ravens to round out the season, battling for seeding. And speaking of those Ravens, Wade, coming off the Panda game, we thought they were going to be excited. We thought they were going to be rearing to go. And they ran into the best team in the OUA, arguably the best team in U Sports right now, the Laurier Golden Hawks, who put up 55 in a 55-12 win over the Carleton Ravens.
Yeah, and just not much going on. I mean, a lot of this game was played in what looked like a monsoon. Certainly not a favorable weather condition for the Carleton Ravens and their high flying passing attack, but Laurier did what they've done all year. High percentage from Cal Wither, Tayshawn Jackson being electric as always. The GRT, Darian Bassick-Haddon getting in the end zone. We love to see that one. Laurier is priming themselves for this match against Western. And much like we saw 2 years ago with them meeting in the final week, it's not the entire indicator of how the Yates Cup is going to go. But Connor, it's going to tell a lot of the tale. And Laurier is building themselves up and getting to a point where it's a balanced offense. They're spreading the ball around. The defense has been uber impressive and flying around. And keep in mind, this game was played without Ethan Gregoricic, so they will be getting him back on 2 weeks rest for the Laurier Golden Hawks. So he will be ready to rock. Now, as for Carleton, 2 quarterbacks again. I think it was just a matter of it's not really happening. Let's just kind of save face and be ready to go. But as they go into McMaster, I don't know if 2 quarterbacks is going to cut it. They got to stick with one guy and ride it out and really pin their season on the hopes and shoulders of one quarterback.
Yeah, I really agree. I really agree. And just before we move off this one, Wade, I do want to throw out a bit of a futures pick here for you. Is Cal Wither starting to work his name, or has he worked his name into the OUA MVP talk and the Heck Creighton talk here? Listen to this, because he now leads the country in passing yards with 2,109. He has 21 touchdowns, which also leads the nation, just 4 interceptions on the season, and he is second in passing percentage with 73.7. So, in my opinion, I think yes, he's worked his name into the OUA MVP conversation. I think it's really now at this point a 2 horse race between him and Dolby.
Well, three-horse race. I think Alex Freakin has done enough, but we
Yes,
talked
yes,
about in
absolutely.
previous weeks, the two losses are going to be hard for the voting committee to look past, which I'm not always a big fan of, but it is a real thing in the OUA and in youth sports. But Connor, you mentioned the other guy that's in the conversation, and it's nice to include Cal Wither in that conversation. But to me, this award is signed, sealed, delivered, and it is Ethan Dolby name all over it. Connor, how many great running backs have we had come through Western in the last little while? I mean,
So
Alex
many.
Taylor, what is it? Varga,
Yeah,
K5. We've just had all these running backs, a storied franchise history of just pounding the rock and being better than you at running the football. Well, guess what Ethan Dolby did this last weekend against the York Lions? With a game remaining, Ethan Dolby has now set a new program record in rushing yards in a season. Connor, he still has a game to go, and he's only 2 touchdowns away from tying the program record for touchdowns scored. And that's even with Jerome Rancor scoring all of those short yardage touchdowns that Ethan Dolby probably also could have taken an advantage of. So I think this is Dolby's award. It is a done deal. And regardless of what happens against Western in this final week, I think what Ethan Dolby has been able to do, the body of work he has put out this year, has been spectacular. And against York, it was no different. 15 for 264, 3 touchdowns, a couple long chunk plays. I mean, he got tackled at the 5 at one of them. He scored the other one for an 85-yard carry. He was the workhorse. Again, Evan Hillock just has to take a couple of those nice little rainbows over the top. But Western rolled, and it was on the backs of this O line and Ethan Dolby.
wait, Ethan Dolby had almost as many rushing yards as Evan Hillock had passing yards in this game, and he had 4 less attempts than Hillock got. Hillock had 23. Sorry, he had 4 less attempts than Hillock had completions in this one. He had 23 attempts, and just as many touchdowns as Hillock had with his arm in this one. So that was a very impressive day for Dolby, in a day where he became the all-time leading rusher in Western Mustangs history. And I think you're right. I think that for my money, anyways, the OUA MVP right now has got to go to Dolby. The things that he's doing on the ground. I mean, he averaged damn near 20 yards per carry in this one, Wade. Almost 20 yards per carry. He is the reason that Western's offense is able to do what they're able to do this year, I think.
Yeah, and I think some people would point at, the fact that Jack Kelly has a lot of success as well and say, well, the O line is just that dominant. And you're right. The offensive line for Western is dominant, and that is what has been York's biggest, pitfall, I guess we can say this season, is they just cannot hold up when teams roll with size and roll with power and just hammer the game away. We saw it with Western this last weekend. We saw it with Queens a few weeks ago. York has thrown the ball really well, part of the benefit of having Keegan Hall, but in the trenches, this Lions team has been outmanned and outmatched a lot of the season, and it's really something that's come to the forefront as they climb their way and try to push into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one, Wade. Like, I think York did a lot of impressive things in this game and a lot of things that they can be proud of. And there's a lot of really good tape here. It just started happening a little bit too late for me in this one. By the time they got going, it was already 21-0 Western after the first quarter. And in those types of situations, when you give Western 21 straight points in the first quarter of a football game, usually good things don't happen for the opposing team. So a lot of good tape here for York. I think it just started happening too late.
Well, Connor, we talk about, Western doing what Western does. Ottawa, unfortunately, had a repeat of the week that was in the Panda game. And, you want to reset. We talked about that going into the week. How do you reset? How do you rebound from a performance like that? Well, they looked great off the start. They come out, they drive the field, they score. Noah Avery catches a nice touchdown pass from Josh Jansen. They play a little bit of back and forth. Lidster gets a couple field goals. And then all of a sudden, it was just punt block. And Lidster tries to kick it out because it was before the end zone. So he was trying to save from giving Windsor a 1st and 10 on the 1. He misses the kick. Noah Avery then in the end zone also tries to kick it out, which I immediately started questioning because you're already in the end zone. If you're going to kick it out of the back, it's 2. If you're going to fall on it, it's 2. If you're just trying to give them a safety, why risk it? You can't you're not somebody that kicks a ball on a regular basis. It's hopping, it's already bouncing weird because Copeland had already missed a kick. Just land on it.
Yep.
Avery ends up kicking it to the side. Windsor ends up racing ahead and recovering it for a touchdown. So technically a second week with a punt block touchdown going against the Ottawa GGs. And Connor, they shored up the A-gaps this time, but they shortened the boundary side way too much, and somebody snuck home a really good block by Windsor, and then it was just the Wavy Mambo show. And Connor, man, he's just running at a different clip right now. He is seeing the field so well, and it looks like he's found another gear from what we saw in previous seasons.
Oh, 100%. He was super impressive in this game, Wade. Again, we talked about, what Dolby does, averaging almost 20 yards a carry in that game against York, but Mambo in this one, Wade, averaged 16 yards a carry on 9 attempts, 142 yards in this one. When you're doing that, when you're able to turn around and hand the rock off and get 16 yards, get almost 20 yards per carry out of a guy, man, is that helpful for your offense. And I think Windsor in this one really just, we saw Ottawa come out with the early touchdown, and that was about it. Windsor took control of this one. It was a little bit of Brady Lidster through the start of this game, and then Mambo took over, and that was all she wrote. I think Ottawa, they've got a get right game coming up here against Toronto, so I think that they've got to evaluate the tape over the last 2 weeks, especially the special teams tape. I think that's really going to need to be evaluated here, short up again, back-to-back weeks with some special teams errors that were very costly. So I think heading into the playoffs, because Ottawa, I think, is going to be, they should be a playoff team here still, based on record. Got to shore these special teams things up as we approach playoffs here. But I think that does it for the week.
Hold on, I want to talk about something here because Ottawa did make a push towards the end, Connor. And I don't know if you noticed this. Riley Hildebrandt, defensive tackle,
Going
with
over
a
the pile.
touchdown run. Not only did he run like the fridge, he leapt over the entire defense and offensive line. I don't think we've seen a more athletic play in the OUA this year. Ottawa did make a huge push at the end and try to win this game. It was very late in the fourth quarter when they started to make this push, but Riley Hildebrandt with one of the most athletic plays of the season in U Sports, and it might go unnoticed because it was just in like this last-ditch effort to try and come back against Windsor after Windsor had a commanding lead through 3.5 quarters in this one. But shout out Riley Hildebrandt, big men balling. It was a sight to see him going over the top.
Oh man, yeah, I think that was the highlight of the game for Ottawa, certainly in this one, in a game that didn't really go their way. But that's it. That was Thanksgiving weekend. Hope you enjoyed all the Turkey Day football. We have the final week of OUA regular season football coming up this weekend, Wade. It's like, how are we almost here already?
It's insane. I don't know. Season's flown.
It's insane, but we will get to that preview later in the week. A lot of big games, a lot of big matchups, a lot of big playoff standings, but we're going to have all that breaking down at the end of the week here. Make sure you are drinking your BioSteel. Make sure you are staying hydrated. Make sure you're watching OUA football and OUA sports on OUA.tv. We will see you later in the week for this preview episode.